and kind of kick off December and chat with you guys about this month. Um, it was really interesting. It's like the first month, I think, since we've done 360 that it's been live that I haven't been able to like write you guys an intro. But as you guys know, I've had a really like easy pregnancy and I've been very healthy and everything's been wonderful. But my right hand has been completely numb from my like upper back down to my hand. And every once in a while, my left hand also goes numb. So usually when I write you guys your intro for December, I just like sit really quietly and then I almost like don't even look. I just kind of like write and things like come through. It's like another way that I channel, right? Like when I journal. It just kind of flows through me and then I'll read it at the end and be like, oh, okay, like that was a good intro, I guess, but it's not me like writing it like you would write a term paper. It's more of like a channeling experience. And so I like sat down to write it a few times and like my hand feels literally like the loudest car in the world. When your hand falls asleep and it gets like pins and needles. So like my hand feels like that all the time. Like I can move it, but I forget that like my hand is even there sometimes. So Jason's been calling me Wreck-It Ralph because I'll be holding something and then I'll just like let go of it and it just like falls and smashes all over the ground, or I don't realize how close I am to something and I just like smash it and it like knocks everything over. Doctor said this can be really normal. It's probably that like he's sitting on like a nerve that's causing my arms to like be asleep. But it's 24 hours a day for like the last month. So like, you know, it's been like a really funny thing. And when I sat down to write, I couldn't type. I was just like, and the weirdness of my hands not moving was like blocking me from being able to like really write anything. I had like some ideas come through that I wanted to talk about, but I couldn't write it. And so I started thinking about how kind of symbolic this is, like what I'm always saying to you guys about like how the universe speaks to you and what it might be asking of you. And I did feel like maybe universe was firstly asking me to use my voice a little bit more and like write less and speak more, because I don't really have a choice. And also maybe asking me to like do less, like not be so in my physical of like do this, do that, do this, like with my hands, but more so be like in that internal state of like preparation, baby's coming soon. And you guys know I always say December doesn't have to be a month where you get nothing accomplished. It doesn't have to be a month where you do nothing. But end of the year does, and winter in general, even the start of the year, to be honest with you, because it's still in the dead of winter, doesn't really lend itself to like being the most productive you've ever been. It's more so a time to be productive, not in terms of creating new things, but more so in wrapping up the, extras of the things that either you completed in the last year, you didn't complete but decided we're not completing, or things that just kind of fell through the cracks. Like it's a great time of year for that, right? It's kind of a blessing that we have time at the end of the year to kind of regroup. And to be honest, most of the stuff that falls aside throughout the year when we do get into hyper productivity mode is things like self-care, is things like meditation, is things like being present for other people, right? And December is this amazing time where we get to like put the focus on that and even do it with like the whole universe and the whole environment around us usually on that path, right? It's way more common to have an opportunity to volunteer for charity in the month of November and December around the holidays. It's way more common to be able to like show up for a friend and bring food to a potluck, or just send somebody a nice heartfelt holiday greeting, or possibly a gift if you're in that space, right? Whether it's a valuable gift, doesn't have to be just something nice, right? Maybe you bake cookies for somebody, or you just show gratitude that you forgot to show throughout the year. And and so it is this like really nice time to, we're still being productive, right? That's productive work. Taking stock of like how deeply grateful we are to things and really taking time to give it back energetically to the universe and to ourselves and to the universe through ourselves, right? But we kind of forget that when we're in like outward mode, where we're trying to create physical things and go on trips and travel and all this stuff. And it doesn't mean that we can't also be traveling and doing those things in the month of December or January, February. Obviously, I do those things, but it doesn't have to be that. And it can be productive in different ways, and it can be valuable in different ways. And a lot of the time, I think we're really called back to that. I had a couple of like contemplative periods this year. Like I can remember the beginning of the year being like pretty quiet and like just about me. And then I remember shortly after moving to Texas, kind of having another month or so period that was very quiet. And now the last 2 weeks here have been like very quiet, like since my baby shower, which was so cute. Thank you guys if you guys sent some of you guys sent such cute little greetings and just like nice messages. It was just so nice to have that from you guys. But yeah, since then it's been kind of just like just introspective more, just more quiet, less output, less like of those things. And like I said, still doing it. Yesterday I on Friday night we drove to San Antonio at like 7 o'clock at night, got in at midnight, went to bed at 2, started a 9:30 in the morning rehearsal with the Spurs. Were there until 7 o'clock last night, got in the car, drove all the way back from San Antonio. That's obviously not unproductive behavior, right? That's not let's not do anything behavior. However, it's more like I don't know where I got this like this word from. I don't know if this is a real thing. We could look it up after. But for some reason, I call them lion sprints. I don't know what makes me call them that, other than when I was in the Serengeti, they would explain like lions would do like a lot of work for a short period of time and then kind of like just chill and like vibe out for the next like 5 days. And that's kind of how I like to work, especially at the end of the year. Like I'll just kind of have a day or two where I do everything. And then like the next 5 days, I'm just like, whatever feels good, I'll just do that, or I won't do anything, or I'll get cozy or whatever. So I find like from November onward until like almost February, until spring comes, I like to do lion sprint kind of work where I just like make a list of things I need to get done. And then 1 or 2 days where I do get that natural burst of energy and I don't have to force myself, I sit down and kind of knock off as much as I can. And then maybe I don't work again for another couple of days. And then I get back to my list, and I don't give myself any grief about the time that I'm taking off in between. Like I said, I try to highlight how can I be more present in other ways and productive in other ways other than like checklist, like task and chore kind of ways. And so yeah, most of what I wanted to remind us about with December is it's a difficult time of year. It's a confusing time of year. It can also be a very pressure-filled time of year. People are very hell-bent on how am I going to be different? How am I going to change? How is next year going to be better? How's it going to top everything? How am I going to be the new me, right? New year, new me. That's so much pressure when we're supposed to be in a period of enjoying and be just being in the now. It's very conflicting to also be like, but how am I going to be the best me I've ever been in all my life? Like, well, we can't really relax if that's what we're really like thinking about, right? And so I'm always encouraging you guys to just kind of remember, we don't need to be like a new year, new me. To be honest, the switch into January is more powerful because of the collective focus on change around this time of year. But realistically, this transition into the new year is quite slow. Astrologically, the new year is in like April. So like it's not something that as of January 1st, we've got to like get in the gym and hit every goal. And there's no energetic or planetary support for that kind of behavior. So when you force it, and then after a week or two, it doesn't work out, there's not a big thing to be like, oh, something's wrong with me, I can't hold on to my goals, right? It's just not really the vibes, right? Like it's not literally not the vibes that we're getting. It's the vibes that we're like trained to think is true. And, for anyone who's ever worked in a gym or even had a gym membership, right? I would have a gym membership all the time. And the first 2 weeks of January, you can't go to the gym because it's 355 people in there, everyone waiting in line for the treadmill. Like the gym is just packed, cracked. And then you go February 1st and you're like, it's a ghost town. Everyone has given up on going to the gym. No one made it, you know? And so it's just like a funny thing that people don't realize. You get yourself caught in this spiral. And the most detrimental thing to you as a productive, happy person, being the new you and the best version of you, is the feeling of failure, is the feeling that you have dishonored yourself or a commitment to yourself somehow. This does not produce more productive or positive behavior. It produces disassociation. It produces disappointment. It produces self-sabotage, right? We start feeling like, oh, I failed myself. Oh, I didn't do what I set out to do. And then the outcomes kind of just get worse and worse until we have no motivation and we're completely depleted. And then we're like, why did that happen? Well, you did that to yourself. You know what I mean? Your body does so much better with small bouts of productive behavior that we can celebrate, you know, that we can say, this is a step in a direction that feels better to me, whether it's more easeful, more healthful, more joyful, more passionate, more purposeful, more creative. It doesn't have to be the whole enchilada. It doesn't have to be everything you ever did or learned in your lifetime in one day, you know? And it shouldn't be, it couldn't be. It has to be a gradual shift, right? And so I'm mostly trying to remind people, you have time. This is a shift that is happening over some time. It is not something, no matter how much the external programming that's consumerist, right, that has a goal here that's saying January 1st, we can make money off these people by selling them gym memberships and diet pills and journals and planners, and we can sell them new workout clothes and we can sell them things, right? So if we can get them to commit to January 1st being the day they need all this new stuff or this new life, then we can predict the market and we can make money, right? That's the reason that people will, not people, but society will work in that way, right? It's very consumerist, right? It's how can we maximize and monopolize what people need and give them a need, right? First, we have to convince them they need this thing and they need to do this thing. And then we need to convince them that we can help them and sell them something that will help them, right? So it's kind of like it's always a good time to like make a good choice, right? So there's no reason energetically that January 1st has to be the day that everything goes, you know, upward. It may be a day you wake up and you just have natural energy. And that is likely because as we are receptive beings, we'll be in a society that is either going to convince themselves fakely or has been convinced by the news or the media or the social media or whatever they've been watching that January 1st is a day of energy, is a day to get things done. So it's not weird to wake up on the 1st and have some energy, but it's also not weird to wake up on the 1st and feel a little depleted. So mostly, again, what I'm always trying to convince people is there's no right way to feel throughout the holidays, throughout this month. There's no feeling that's going to guarantee that things are going in the right direction or that you're on the right path. All the feelings are just reflecting back where you're at right now, which is the only piece of information that we need, right? We're very consumed with trying to know whether or not we're on the right path and where the path we're on is heading. But that information is not available, right? When you get back information from your spiritual GPS, it's a pinpoint and it shows you are here. But it doesn't show you are here in relation to other stuff. It just shows you are here, right? It is a barometer for where you're at in the present moment. That's really all the info you get. Everything else you're inventing. Oh, I'm further than I was last year. Oh, I'm on the path to X, Y, and Z. You can tell yourself that if you want to, if that helps you somehow, which I don't think it does. I think it creates confusion and conflict. But you have to know and be aware that you're making that up. There's no way for you to really know where you're at in the spiral, right? You just know you're here and everything else around it is just kind of blank, right? So this has happened to me like literally in the physical when I've gone on a trip and I've been in a place with no reception. You see your little pin, but around you it's just like jungle or blur, and you're like, great, what's the use of my pin if I don't know what that is in relation to other things, right? And From a physical perspective, maybe that's true, but from an energetic perspective, it isn't, right? Knowing you are here and where you are is quite important. And it is not a pinpoint that matters in relation to where you've been, where other people are, and where you're going. It's just a point that matters in relation to the right now. Pausing because Danny just got here and Charlie hasn't seen her in 2 weeks. So she's crying big fat tears. Oh, who's that, Char? Aw. Good girl, Charlie. Who is that? Go see her. But anyway, if we can get comfortable understanding like an energetic purpose of needing to know just where we're at in this moment, whether that's right now I'm processing, right now I'm integrating, right now I'm grieving, right now I'm healing, right now I'm tying up loose ends, right now I'm being introspective, right now I'm being productive, I'm being creative, right now I'm, cleansing, I'm letting go of things that didn't happen this year. A lot of the times we have a hard time looking back and giving ourselves the credit for what we've actually completed or what we actually exceeded in terms of what we've set goals for ourselves. So quickly people's minds go to what they didn't do, right? So being able to spend a little bit of time in a season of celebration, which is what holidays is meant to bring, is supposed to be about, wow, look what I did that kind of exceeded my expectations this year. If I ask people, where are you failing? Where are you falling short? The answer comes quick. They know immediately where they are fucking up. But if I ask them, like, what are you doing that is exceptional? What have you done that like last year you wouldn't even believe that you were able to accomplish? Whether that's staying calm under pressure or you were able to walk away from a job or a relationship that didn't serve or suit you, or whatever it was, you let go of an old grudge. These are huge accomplishments that we don't give ourselves credit for. So that's a season, that's a point, right? I'm in the point of actually giving myself my flowers while I'm still alive, right? And then there's also seasons or moments of being able to release things that we thought we wanted, right? Because no matter how aligned we think we are, how awake or aware we think we are still controlled to some extent by our ego and by the desires of our ego. So it's not uncommon to go into something with the best of intentions and think, I really want to do this for good reasons, but halfway through kind of find out maybe there was a little bit more to this than I originally thought, right? Maybe I'm in this friendship or I'm in this relationship or I'm in this career choice or I'm in this public personality or whatever it is, right? Because of something that doesn't really suit me or sit with me and I'd rather do it a little different. Being able to cut that off and let it go without accomplishing it, right? Without finishing it is very hard for people. They feel, again, like they have failed or like they are, missing the mark in some way, or that they're betraying themselves in a commitment they made to themselves or whatever it is. And, that's a whole nother amount of work to put into something, to know like, all right now I'm just letting things go that I thought I wanted to do, or I thought I set out on the correct path, but ultimately halfway down the road felt disconnected or misaligned with that path, right? That's work. Most people can't do that. They drag these half started things, right, into their new experience. People will decide, people won't let their goals change with them, right? So they'll consistently go back to an old way of accomplishing a goal and assume that's what they have to do. So many people will say, I want to get in shape, for example, right? And then they'll tell me, in the past, I loved boxing. And I'll say, okay, that's fine. That doesn't mean anything to me. The past version of you is dead. So that's nice. That's a nice story of the past. Just like we tell the story of any past experience, doesn't mean anything about now. It just means at a point you enjoyed boxing. Somewhere on this map, there's a pin where you were somewhere enjoying boxing. That's all it means, right? It doesn't mean anything about where we're at today or how it relates to today or if it relates to us at all. But their automatic thought is, I'll go back to boxing. and then they'll sign up or they'll buy all the equipment and they'll go once and they'll be like, I still enjoy it, but I just can't find the motivation I used to have to go all the time. And I'm like, why did you think you would? Like, what led you to that assumption that now with all this changing and all this transformation and all this growth and maybe years of time that have passed since that was something that you did, that would happen again? What? First of all, why would you want that? Because you're constantly saying you don't want to be the same person you were, but you want to do the same things you did, right? That doesn't make any sense. And like, what brings us to the conclusion that we'd like to do those things? I mean, when we were babies, we used to poop our pants. We don't do that anymore. Like, we don't want to go back to that. We did it every day. Like, we can't assume that behavior is going to come back up and be like, we used to do this all the time. We enjoyed it. Well, it doesn't really have anything to do with anything. You know what I mean? Like, you may have just enjoyed physical activity. You may have enjoyed some type of contact thing. You can kind of use it as a barometer if you want and kind of look up other types of movement that are similar to boxing, or you might be in a completely different phase of your life and it might be time for ballet class or Pilates or yoga. And if you're not willing to adjust, then you're just not going to work out, because like you're just going to keep trying to force yourself into a pattern of being that has passed for you. And you're going to consistently do that thing where I was talking about earlier on, which is where you kind of feel like a failure. You feel like, I signed up for this thing and I'm not this person I was. And I used to be so motivated and I used to do all these things. And now I just feel like shit because I don't do all these things anymore. And it's like, but at the same time, you'll get up every day and be like, I want to be a different person. I want to change. I want to grow. And it's like, well, do you want to be different or do you want to be the same? Because we can't really do both things at the same time. And constantly wanting that is causing this feeling of failure, because you can't be the same and be different. So if that's what you're trying to do, you're already a little bit screwed in the intention and in the focus, right? And so that has to be shifted, right? We have to say, from this new point on the map, I feel a desire to tune in to more physical movement. And that's all we need to do. Then we need to wait for opportunities for physical movement to appear, right? We need to pass by a store and say, ooh, hey, that Pilates machine looks interesting, right? Let me try that. And maybe that leads us to another door, to another space, to another this, right? We need an opportunity for someone to say, hey, you want to go on a walk with me? Yeah, that's physical motion. I'd like to get out there and get on a walk and see how I feel. Like, we have to just then become receptive. We don't have to go back and attempt to micromanage and decide from past versions of me, from some other points on this map, here's stuff I used to like to do. Let me drag it out from the depths and do it the same way I did it then. Like it, and then decide we failed at that, which we almost always do. You know, occasionally an old passion will really reveal itself to us and ask us to revisit it, but it will feel very different. And that's how you'll know that it's working, right? You'll feel a deep connection to it. You'll feel a deep desire to it, and it'll feel really different. You'll have different feelings and thoughts about it than you did in the past. And you won't have to feel like a failure, because it'll genuinely just move you forward through productivity. But most of the time, people don't have the patience to let something reveal itself to them. They just automatically start with the problem solving. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I used to do. That used to work. I'm dragging it out of the past and I'm taking it into the present. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to decide I'm a failure. And you're just like, okay, let me know how that goes in a couple of weeks, because there's no way that's going to go well. But, you know, and then people be like, well, how did you know that wasn't going to work? And I'm like, it's pretty textbook. It's energetic textbook. Yeah. Let me look at your questions here. So Bella said, how do you honor your closing of cycles during this time? So one of the ways that I really try to honor, like if things are closing, whether it's a friendship that's like being moved away, you know, or a habit that's being moved away, or a thought process that's being moved away, I really will usually I will journal about it, which obviously I can do now. But I always try to just visit it with gratitude, right? So I speak about what about it I was grateful for, and what about it really spoke to me, and what about it shifted me or changed me. And then I just try to not say anything final. A lot of people, I think, go into this feeling of like, well, I have to let go of this and like letting go of it means that's it. It's completely untethered. Letting go of it just means you're not holding the string like this, right? It doesn't mean you're not attached to it anymore. It doesn't mean it'll never come back. It doesn't mean that a little distance from something won't make its way back in, right? Energy, your aura, your vortex, it's a breathing, living thing. And it's literally going like this in waves that are bringing things out and bringing things in. And so the best way to honor any kind of closure or shift is to honor it like you would honor the tides in the ocean, right? Like let them go and let them come. So I try to use words like that. Like I'm letting go and I'm receiving simultaneously, right? It's not like the whole season is we're just letting go of things. I know we convince ourselves of that, but the universe really doesn't work black and white, doesn't just literally strip you of everything, right? They're always also giving you something. And it's like this exchange, this little dance. So you can even use words like that, since a lot of us are artists or like movement, right? Like I'm dancing with universe, giving and receiving. Like everything is in cycle, everything is in circle, and I'm accepting that. And I'm enjoying that. And I'm grateful for that. So I try to use words like that. And honestly, I think the best way we honor anything is by really being grateful for it. For some reason, as things move away from us, we feel the need to villainize them. Well, that must be moving away because it was bad, because it was negative, because that person was bad, because I was bad, because they're going in a bad direction. They're not going along with me where I'm going. And it's this need to be like, that was bad. That was that, like to really categorize things that are being separated from us as negative or bad. And to feel like, oh, we're letting go of that and it's not going to happen again. And then when it does inevitably come back around, we're like, oh, wait, there's that weird behavior or thought again. Maybe I fucked up. Maybe I didn't really let it go. But it's not understanding that that's not really how it's working. It is not that finite. I know a lot of us think it would be nice if it was, because it's much easier to kind of see things black and white and be like, oh, I let go of that. I don't do that anymore. And it's like, there's very few things that you're never going to do again. There's very few things that are not going to come back around again. I would say very few because I can't say nothing, but in my experience so far in my own life and in coaching others, I've never seen anything not come back eventually in some way, right? In different ways, in smaller forms and bigger forms, but the same core lessons and purposes and experiences come back around. That's life. It's the cycles, right? It's your journey, and the things that matter to you on that journey, they will make appearances. So like being at war with that, or convincing yourself you've finished something and then being shocked when it comes back up again, is causing a lot of like internal struggle that doesn't need to be there. And again, it often causes us to go to war with the self and decide we fucked up. Like, oh, it's my fault that this came back around. I must not have learned that lesson, right? So honoring something is really just honoring it for what it is. And what it is something we don't actually know what it is. We don't know how far it's being taken out to sea, and we don't know when it'll come back around, and we don't know, when it'll reappear and why and in what capacity. We don't have that information. So we can't honor those things, but we can honor what we know it has been in the now, right? This at points brought me a lot of comfort, brought me a lot of safety, brought me a lot of love, brought me a lot of clarity, brought me to terms with really difficult truths about myself. I feel really grateful about those things, right? And then just leave it at that, right? I honor the natural cycles. I honor universe's guidance. I honor the ability to let go and receive. And just feeling those grateful, good vibes towards things is the best way to just kind of breathe with the universe, basically. Jenna said, what if you feel like you're doing all those things at once? I don't know where that was in the conversation. So you're going to tell me all of what things at once. Maybe it was like where I was talking about all the different cycles where you can like.
I don't remember.
I think it was probably when I was talking about like when you can like.
It was like purging, releasing, gaining. I don't know. It was like a whole list.
Yeah. I think it was when I was talking about like that you can like be gaining insight about things. You can be letting go of things you started that didn't really resonate. You can be giving yourself the flowers of things you did well. what if it feels like you're doing all those things at once? You usually are. Like, life is, like I said, it's very complex. It's not something where we just sit around and be like, for the next week, I'm just going to give myself flowers for everything I did great. And no thoughts of where I've failed or fall short are going to come in. Like, we don't work like that. We're not closed systems and circuits. So like, usually there's an emphasis on something, right? Because there's a lesson for that week, but there's always a lot of things going on. You can kind of think of it as like when you used to go to school, the way school was structured. One week there'd be a science fair, and science was like the big thing, but you still went to math, and you still took gym, and you still went there was a moral life, there was still things going on. It was just like science was the big thing that week, right? Or you had an English final, so English was like the focus that week. The lessons we're getting from universe are quite the same. There's always a million and one things kind of going on at once, but if you're keyed in, you can feel the emphasis on more than a couple times this week I've felt this feeling of like, good job, look at that, that's somebody, I'll find like all of a sudden 1 week people will start giving me a lot of grace and being like, thank you so much for this, or this was so helpful, or I really like, I'm so grateful for X, Y, and Z. And that'll kind of tell me, maybe this is my like flowers week, where I could sit and be like, yeah, we really did that. We did that better than we intended to do, right? Like we did a good job. And then maybe the next week it's people being like, hey, next year, do you think we could do this? Could we go there? Could we go here? And I'm like, okay, so maybe this is my chance to think about what I'd like to create in the next year, right? And so I'm still doing all the other things. I'm just kind of focused on what is universe showing me that's like in alignment for me to like give a little extra focus on. And again, like this stuff happens naturally once you're clued in, right? So I'm not sitting around being like, today I'm going to think about the ways I've done things well, right? Like it's not like an episode of Blue's Clues. It's like, it just kind of happens naturally. And then you can look back and be like, oh yeah, I did all those things, I guess, this week. I just didn't even realize I was doing it. So it does happen naturally. It does happen all at once. It does not ever be like a black and white linear experience where you can be like, I'm really just, celebrating myself right now and nothing else is getting through. It's impossible, and it's unrealistic, and also unnecessary. It'd be like kind of daunting to just sit around and be like, this is how I'm great for a week. Mariana, I think I answered this first question. You feel your relationship to things can change even if you're not necessarily cutting it off, of course, right? Like your
Yeah,
relationship.
I heard you talking about, I was like, all right, that answers that.
Yeah, I didn't even see it, but I guess I felt it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then yeah.
And then you also answered the second thing I said too.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think, we get very black and white. And like I said, there is a reason, right? Societally, we're conditioned to see things as black and white. You did it or you didn't. You showed up or you failed. You won or you lost. It's because there's something to sell you in there, right? Like there's ways to maximize and monopolize you when from a consumer standpoint, when we've convinced you it's one thing or the other, right? And that's why society does that, tries to make it clear, right? There's a right side and there's a wrong side. And that way we know where to put you, and we know what to sell you, and we know who to group you with, and we know what we have to do to move you on this board of, society and consumerism and things like that. But in reality, you are always a very complex creature. And the feeling of being caged into any one thing always starts to create resistance, and it always will, because it's just not realistic, and it's not the way that things are really happening. We never really just let things go and they just like disappear into the ether. Like it doesn't really work like that, and it never has, right? And we don't just decide one day we're going to like, from a healthful standpoint anyway, from a real true energetic standpoint, that we're going to work out every day, and then we work out every day for 365 days. Like that's not going to happen. That shouldn't happen, right? The only ways that does happen is when behavior becomes obsessive or addictive, in which case the behavior is automatically and intrinsically toxic. So, often that's what people do. They sell you the sickness and then they sell you the cure, because there's money in both of those things, right? And if you subscribe and you adhere to that truth, then that's going to be true for you, and that's the life you're going to live. But if you decide, you know what, I'm a flowing being, I'm changing, Some days I'll want to do this, and some days I'll want to do that, and some days I'll feel X, Y, and Z. And all of that is okay if you give yourself permission to be a human being, an energetic being on this planet in this experience. Everything gets so much easier. The amount of pressure you put on yourself, the expectations you have for yourself, they become more realistic to the truth of why you're here, you know, and they start to shift, and they start to allow you to make more authentic movements. You know, it's even an interesting thing where, like, when I was younger, I always felt like giving people gifts around the holidays or giving people gratitude around the holidays should be something that like they would get and be like, ooh, like this thing was on my list. You know what I mean? And I did that stuff, but I don't think I ever was really like full from it. It was like, okay, a check, right? Like, Charlie's in a fight with a schnauzer that she hates. Tell him, Charlie, don't let him come here over here. Yeah, we hate him. I don't know why she hates him, but because she hates him, I have to, because that's how it works. So he's the only dog she barks at when he walks past. Yeah, you hate him. Good girl. Yeah. Good girl. Hi, honey. Are you so happy? Are you so happy? You want to see everyone? Come here. You want to see everybody? Say hello. You're the best. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Look who it is. Oh, goodness. Yeah. 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 Schnauzer hunter. Yeah. Yeah. Can I have a kiss? Hello? Hello? Can I have a kiss? Hello? I guess not. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Anyway, so yeah, good girl. I'll be done in a minute, okay? I'm gonna go outside. Boy, white dog. The one thing I said I didn't want, universe was like, LOL, you're getting a white dog with long hair that gets all over everything. So get over yourself. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was saying before Charlie got mad at the schnauzer, which probably means it wasn't that important. But the goal for me with December is always to just remind you to chill and remind you that it's okay to be introspective, and it's okay for things to move in ways you didn't anticipate. Oh, and it's okay for you to do things in a different way. I remember what I was saying now, which is that like just giving people gifts felt like checking things off a checklist, right? Just like saying thank you feels like checking things off a checklist sometimes. Because again, we're programmed by consumerist things. You see people getting a car for Christmas, buying each other Louis Vuitton, taking each other on a big trip, and then you're like, I'm gonna write a little message and give them a chocolate chip cookie, and who's gonna care, right? But realistically, I remember a lot more of the things that people said to me or connected with me and really meant than I do of people who handed me things that they just wanted to like knock it off a list, right? I don't remember the gifts I got when I was a kid, but I remember the moments that I had with people that really mattered to me, and with people who really stepped forward and spoke honestly and authentically and gave me part of them, you know. And you know, I think that's just something that we have a lot of trouble believing because of the amount of like advertising that doing these big things and these big grand gestures and these big expensive you know, displays really shows. Like, you know, even recently, because we've been getting so many gifts for the baby and we've been getting so much stuff. I mean, the amount of things that people have gifted us at this point is just like, it's almost overwhelming. I started to feel like I can't say thank you to all these people. Like, I don't even know what to do to thank them at this point. I don't know how to say thank you. I don't know, like, do I send out cards? And then I'm like, I'm gonna have to send out 150 thank you cards. Like, that's how many people and brands and things have like sent us stuff for the baby. And like, even then the thank you cards would probably have to be like a message I wrote that was like mass produced. Like, I don't know how to thank people anymore. Like, I'm lost. Like, do I send them a gift? And then if I sent them a gift, is it like, am I sending you a gift because you sent me a gift? Or like, what are we doing out here? You know, like, baby is like an interesting thing because it's not like Christmas where, you know, somebody gives you a Christmas gift, you're usually like, I'd like to reciprocate something kind for that person. There's a reciprocity to giving a lot of the times, right? Or even birthday, you know, someone's birthday is going to come back around. But the baby is random, and the people that have shown up to give us gifts have come kind of, a lot of them have come out of the woodwork. They're not even people that we speak to that often or whatever. It's been like very just random people that feel called to bless us at this time, basically. And it just made me think a lot about like, what does it mean to really give and to receive? And how can I go through this list of people and in an authentic way really reach each of them and give them sincere gratitude for what they've shown and how they've shown up? And it has nothing to do with how much they sent, or this person gave us a $200 gift and this person gave it a $5 gift and this person did it literally doesn't have anything to do with that. It's like every name on the list holds so much weight. And just knowing that and seeing that, right? And not even the gifts, but the messages, like the kindness, the kind comments on my things, on my posts about my pregnancy, about the baby coming, people's excitement and anticipation to see him and to meet him. Like, I feel deep gratitude for those things just as much as the physical and financial gifts and stuff. So to see that from my perspective is to give me some peace in knowing that, right? That of course the physical and financial gifts, when you can bless someone in that way, if you have the means and the real authentic desire to do it, then do it, because it's such a powerful thing. But also if you don't, like all the other ways you can show up to really fill somebody up and bring them through like a time, right? Birth is a death. Like I'm going to die in a couple of weeks. We know that. So like the way people have shown up to like support me and bring me through that, there's no amount of effort that has been like, ugh, that wasn't enough. Like that was stupid. That was a small thing, or they only said congratulations. They didn't say anything else. Like everyone's effort, no matter how small, if they gave me any energy or they gave me any, you know, presence, it's weighed and meant so much to me. Like so much so to the point that I'm literally like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to give grace back. I'm gonna, you know, you always get that feeling like when you're going to invite people someplace, you're going to forget someone. Like that's how I feel. I'm like, even if I sat here right now and until February started like trying to give energy back to everyone that's given it to me, I'd miss somebody and then I'd ultimately feel bad. So like, I think it's also just remembering that we can give back without having to make everything so transactional, right? I can give back to the collective energy, and I can give back to people in an intuitive way, as long as I don't get caught up in that feeling of like, well, you did this for me, so I did it for you, like a tit for tat kind of a thing, right? I have to allow people to bless me and love me how they feel that they can, and then I have to be able to give that blessing and love back how I feel that I can, and that has to be good enough, you know, and it will be good enough and it will be enough. And the other aspect of like feeling like I have to be tit for tat with things is really just programming. It's just the programming of seeing that kind of behavior in movies and in a this or in a that, you know, that if you don't do that, then you're in some way not conscious or not grateful, but that's not true at all. And, you know, it's just allowing that, you know, allowing yourself to recognize, where did this feeling come from? Like, where did this thought come from, you know? And also kind of experiencing and knowing that people can like feel my gratitude even if I didn't say anything to them directly, and people can experience my energy even if I don't, you know, show up exactly the same way that they showed up for me, or if I didn't have the space for that right in this moment, that in a month from now maybe I'll show up when they need me. You know what I mean? That we can let life bring us through, right? And as long as we are in genuine gratitude and appreciation, then it will, you know, then you're going to have your opportunities to bless the world and bless everyone that has blessed you, and bless people who you haven't even met yet, and bless strangers on the street. And all of that will energetically just kind of make sure that everyone's covered. And trusting that, I think, is just really the big thing, right? So your responsibility is just getting in alignment with real gratitude, getting in alignment with real appreciation. Charlie's crying because she wants to go on her walk. So she's like, I'm grateful for you taking me on a walk right now. Do that. But I think her thing's in there, Danny, if you want to strap her up. Charlie, sit for a sec. Auntie will put your harness on. You put your harness on? You want to walk? Sit down. Sit down, Mama. Yeah, good girl. Sorry, got a baby, you know, what can I do? There's her thing on the chair there. Bless you.
Her leash is there. Her harness is not.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she hit it because she doesn't like it. It's red now. Her harness. Anyway, so yeah, just knowing that your responsibility for things is just getting in gratitude and getting into appreciation, and that however you're able to, you know, extend that back, don't hesitate to extend it back. And don't feel like any way in which you extend it back is a failure or is falling short, because, you know, then we end up just mentalizing and like making logic of something that's supposed to be energetic, that's supposed to be feeling, you know, not thinking. So that's what I'm really gonna do. I already told myself I'm gonna like wait till everything feels like it's gathered, and then I'm going to sit quietly, and I'm going to just, from an authentic place, from a place of gratitude, figure out how to just give energy back out. And it may be to people who didn't send me anything or didn't even say congratulations, don't even know I'm pregnant. It might be to anybody. Like, I'm just gonna let intuition take me through a giving when I feel that I have that in me to do. And you know, I'm just gonna honor that and make that how it goes. And I think that it's a new lesson, because I don't think we're really used to that, especially those of us that are used to doing everything for ourselves, used to being the giver, used to being the one that this and that. We're not used to like, how do we receive, right? And then when we're not in that receptive mode and we don't know how to receive properly, and we do start feeling like guilt, or we start feeling confusion about like, what do we do when we're in the receptive mode, it shows us where we've been out of balance, and where maybe we've been hyper controlling giving and creating and being the doer, because we're unfamiliar with receiving, you know, and with the things that come along with receiving, right? How do I receive gratefully and graciously and honestly, and in a way that lets people know that I love them and that I appreciate what I'm receiving? That's honestly more foreign to me than how do I give to people. I know how to give to people, you know, but if I don't know how to truly receive what they're giving me, then that shows me there's a break in that chain, and that something in there in that cycle needs to just be dealt with. So I've noticed that a lot, that's been a big a big lesson basically for me. And it's actually kind of funny, because I've told you guys at the beginning of this that my right hand is numb, and that's your receiving hand energetically, right? Your left hand is your giving hand and your right hand is your receiving hand. And my receiving hand has been numb for the whole month because I'm receiving so much stuff that I think my hand is like, what the fuck do I do? I mean, like literally it's just an enormous amount of blessings, and it's such a beautiful thing. But you know, you don't want to miss the lesson in it ever. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing exactly what I'm telling you guys to do, which is, this is an experience around the holidays of giving and receiving, whether you're having a baby or not. For me, it's like giving and receiving on steroids, because it's Christmas, it's my birthday, and I'm having my first baby. So like, it is just gift-a-palooza over here. I like don't know what to do. Like it's chaotic, right? So like the amount of love, the amount of like attention, the amount of support is just like, wow. And it's a beautiful thing, you know. And like I said, it's often I have to disperse it throughout the year. Like, you know, this is my like big experience right here. And then, you know, it calms down a little bit in the summer birthday people get there too, and their flowers. But for me, this end of the year time is always very intense and very hyper stimulated, and it lets me each year really get better at tuning into this cycle of giving and receiving, and what does it mean, and what does it look like, and what do we really want to be giving people, and how do we really want them to feel when they give to us? Because that's part of the gift, right? When you give something to someone and they truly receive it, you feel so much better about what you gave. Like that's a giving back in and of itself, right? Just knowing that somebody really received it in a deep way, whether it was love, attention, validation, you know, kindness, joy, an actual physical gift, it doesn't matter. But seeing somebody truly receive and resonate with something that you've given them is a big deal. And I think a lot of us are kind of out of practice on that. Like, it's kind of a weird thing. We just automatically will get something and be like, okay, they gave me this, I have to go to Bath and Body Works now and get them a candle. I don't know what to do. Like, here's your present now. Like, everybody's just like, oh, I don't know how to handle this, right? And, one other thing to really be conscious of is that while this experience of giving and receiving should be moving like the tides, like all the cycles I talked about in this chat, it should also be making us feel really full, right? Really full, with the ability to receive people's just good tidings, their blessing, and give them right back, right? And allow that cycle to just complete itself in the moment. We should be able to receive people's physical gifts and reciprocate it with an energetic gift. We should be able to receive people's energetic gifts and receive it and reciprocate it with a physical gift, and just be moving on intuition, knowing like the cup is kind of always refilling itself. And we should feel so full from this exchange with people. But often that's not what happens, right? Often people just start feeling lack at this time of year. I don't have enough money to buy people gifts. I don't have enough money to celebrate Christmas. Like, I don't have enough money to go where I wanted to go, or to give what I wanted to give. Or, we, instead of feeling the fullness and the joy that this experience is supposed to bring, it just makes us feel like, okay, well, now 50,000 people showed up for me and I can't show up for 50,000 people. So I guess I failed and I'm not grateful and I don't have enough. And I wish I had more, because if I had more, I could do more. And then basically you literally get buried under the gift of other people's kindness, rather than like, filled by it. And I'm sure that nobody is trying to give you gifts, whether they're energetic, physical, financial, etc., to hurt you or to bury you or drown you or make you feel like you're not good enough or what you have to offer isn't good enough. I'm sure that's not what people are, at least intentionally, trying to create when they're giving, and it's just, I think though, that it happens is showing us that there is a complex relationship with this type of experience. And it has a lot to do with the programming that, like I said, we live in consumerist cultures. So programming does show, someone gives you a $200 gift and you give them a $5 gift, the fuck, like, we have to literally have like fables about like, that might have been his last $5. And what if it wasn't his last $5? What if he's a millionaire, but that $5 gift felt really meaningful? What is the difference? Why does it have to be tit for tat? And why does it have to be like, it's only meaningful if it was like your last ounce of energy? Like, it's like silly things that we've like really categorized and we've accepted as truths that block us from being able to receive and then give naturally and give organically. And in a lot of ways, that's made receiving feel hard for us. I'd rather not, people say all the time, I'd rather give presents than get them. Like, what does that mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? Like, you'd rather give than get. Okay, I don't know what that means really, because everything is everything. So when someone gives you something, you're giving something to them by giving them the opportunity to give something to you. So when you don't let people give you things, you're depriving them of the opportunity to care for you and love for you and show you love. So only ever giving is also taking, because you're taking away people's opportunity to give. Like, so it's like that logic inherently doesn't work. So we have to look at why is that, and then the same thing will eventually turn around and be like, oh, I don't have enough love. I don't have enough support. I don't have enough people around me. I don't have a loving relationship. And it's like, how could you? If you just want to be giving, how could you have things that require a cycle of giving and receiving? You can't. So you have to have both hands open, the one that takes and the one that gives. And you have to let them do their dance without your micromanagement. It's no different than where we try to micromanage anything else. So, just a couple different concepts to think of that always come up for me around this time of year, and things we may never master, just things we can be conscious of. How do we really show up and give what we feel called authentically to give? And how do we have peace in that experience? And how do we change our view on receiving? And how that's a blessing too, but yeah, so I hope this chat was helpful for you. I hope it helps ground you into some of December's energy, especially since we did not have a written December intro. I appreciate you guys always being here with me. It really means so much to have you guys here and have you tuned in and plugged in. And I love you guys. And we will have a chat again next Sunday. And then we won't have a chat for the end of the year for obvious reasons. I want everyone to celebrate and enjoy. I will probably, if I can't do written posts, I'll probably do an audio post with like either some journal prompts or some New Year's like things you can do as we move into the new year, like habits or practices. If you wanted to have an altar or you wanted to do a gratitude practice, I'll send you some ideas for those things in like in a video if I can't write. I'll get it out to you somehow. But yeah, so next Sunday, same time. And I can't wait to talk to you guys again. In the meantime, if you have questions or you want to say anything, drop me a line on Instagram, or if you have my number or on here on Patreon, wherever. Love you guys.